Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Call Time Theater Pod, where every role in theater matters. This is the space where we can talk about it all, where we can laugh, learn, and sometimes call out the chaos. So sign in on the sheet, cause it's call time. Okay, everybody, good morning, or buongiorno, or I'm already off to a great start. My name is Marissa Helene Mast, and I am your hostess with the mostest. And today's Marquee Moment, we are going to be speaking with some of the wonderful people behind the brand new world premiere play that is happening at Curio Theatre in Philadelphia. And it is, okay, I'll be completely honest. When I saw the title of the show, I went, there's no way. Because I was kind of obsessed with this case in high school and nobody really understood why. And I'm so glad to see that there are people that just get it. So we're talking with the people behind the play of Sacco Vanzetti, a Tragedia del Arte. Did I do that? Did I do well on that, y'all?
That was like so close. So close.
Well,
so close.
So
you got
close.
their last names right.
Yeah. See, I have a thing about last names. I want to make sure. But anyway, today we're talking with John Bellomo, Brendan Gowell, and Paul Kuhn of Curio Theatre. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Did I do well on that?
Yes.
Yes, I'm doing my best, y'all. Anyway, good morning. I don't drink coffee. Anyway, so I am truly very excited about this play. In your own words, would you mind briefly explaining the plot of Sacco and Vanzetti?
Well, the plot is that Sacco and Vanzetti were two Italian immigrants in the early or late 1910s that were accused of the murder and robbery of the paymaster of a shoe factory in Massachusetts. They were convicted and after 7 years of appeals, were ultimately executed. And many people at the time felt that they were wrongfully convicted, that they did not commit the crime. And it was a huge case at the time. It was kind of like that era's O.J. Simpson trial, as far as public outcry, as far as publicity in the media. And there were riots around the world, demonstrations around the world when they were executed. So it was a really a big deal in the American judicial system and the history of America. So we're in their centennial of their anniversary of their trial from starting in 2019, and then next year will be the end of that kind of centennial period.
So that being said, so what exactly sparked inspiration to create this play as a whole?
Yeah, well, I don't really remember when I first learned about Sacco and Vanzetti. That's kind of like how long ago it was for me. Last year when we did a staged reading of the play at Westchester University, and my father reminded me that I first learned about Sacco and Vanzetti in high school. And then I think the idea of turning it into a play happened when I was in college. And then I've just been thinking about it ever since. And 2 years ago, I guess I just kind of thought, well, I'm not getting any younger. I got to do this now or maybe never. So I just decided to do it and write the play finally.
I love that. I understand and I love and I feel that a lot. So I'm curious, Paul and Brendan, what drew you to this piece specifically?
I can go. My answer is really quick. John called and I said yes. That was pretty much it.
That's the best.
John and I have worked together for a long time on commedia's work. And so when he said he was doing this, I remember, probably 15, 20 years ago, him saying he wanted to do something about Sacco and Vanzetti. So when he mentioned it, I said, yeah, sign me up. Let's do it. It sounds like a great idea. And our mutual friend, Renato, is also involved. And that's another great appeal. I just go, yeah, of course I want to be involved in this.
Yeah.
For me, I met John years ago at People's Light, and that relationship started then. And we got along immediately. I don't know if you remember, John was the fight choreographer for the fights in the Scottish play.
Ooh.
And we immediately just started hitting it off and having this banter, which we still hold today. And so we started Curio Theatre Company, and it was kind of at my kitchen in Media, Pennsylvania. We were talking about the company, and John was there from the beginning at my kitchen counter discussing this. And then we brought John on to direct pieces, and they ended up being the highlight of Curio's history. So John's a no-fail for us, and he is
a lot of pressure.
No pressure, John.
So far.
They talk about their training in this like they're still students, but I consider them masters of this at this point, and you pretty much are. So it's kind of a no-brainer to have someone who just can't put on bad work, who's a dear friend and a master of this style, which is a challenging style. And yes, for me.
That's great. Fantastic.
Oh, there's plenty of things we don't get along about.
Oh, yeah.
Listen, I think obviously the greatest thing about being artists is being able to work with other artists that you trust, especially when it comes to something like this. And so I'm curious, why commedia specifically for this lens?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think I felt like it would work because one, the circumstances around the trial are really ludicrous. Every joke that we have in the play is actually based on some truth. There isn't one joke that doesn't come out of being inspired by the actual court case. Like, for example, there's the defense lawyer, the judge and the defense lawyer did not hit it off at all in real life, because the defense lawyer was from California. The case was happening in Massachusetts, and they just did not like each other. And in the middle of the court case, apparently he had long hair for the time, the defense lawyer. So that was one. He took his jacket off in trial. That was like a severe no-no in that time period. And then on top of that, he took his shoes off. And, so I was like, what? Why would you take your shoes off? So I put that in the play, and when we did the stage reading, people was like, why did you make the lawyer take his shoes off? I was like, I didn't do that. He did that himself. So we exaggerate it. We blow things out of proportion. But I'm pretty sure that like 99% of our jokes are based on the ludicrousy that actually happened in the trial. So I felt like commedia would lend itself to that. Plus, they were two Italian immigrants. Commedia is a uniquely Italian art form. The Sacco and Vanzetti, they're constantly, there's the two of them. And then there's always a comic duo in commedia. There's like the Arlecchino and the Brighella. So I thought like we could just kind of plug in some commedia schemes in there and make it all work. It kind of all just made sense in my head that this would all go together.
Makes sense to me. Makes sense to your audiences too.
Well, that's the hope. We'll see on when we have our first audience, but
for me,
it's definitely hope.
For me, people are just it's like a wave coming at them every day with bad news and information about immigrants, and just inevitably you become kind of numb to it. So while I totally believe a simple play without style with this messaging would definitely still have an impact, I find that elevating it with a style just brings a nuance to them where they can be more open to it. The elevation of the commedia style with this piece really lends, as John says, to the ludicrousy of what was occurring there.
So we can't talk about commedia without talking about masks. And obviously, Brendan, you created the masks for this production, yes?
I did, yes.
Would you mind telling me about like your process for designing? Obviously there are stocks that are known in the style, but is there anything in particular that you added for, I don't want to use the word flair, but is there anything in particular style-wise that you added for these particular masks?
John and I talked together a lot about what we wanted the mask to look like, and it was a combination. So I have been making masks for a long time now. And so I had some designs already, but not enough for this show. That I made 15 masks for this show.
Wow. Okay.
And so we kind of went through and talked about like, well, maybe some of these designs that I already have will be useful, but then there's some other ones that we want to make new masks for. And some of them there are some specifics involved to help tell this story, right? So for instance, Vanzetti had a big mustache. I got the name right? It's Vanzetti, right? I get confused often of with Sacco Vanzetti. It's my own comedy going on in my head.
I understand. Did you hear how I was at the beginning of this?
Yeah.
You're all good.
So for instance, he has a big mustache. So of course, we're going to add a big mustache to a Brighella mask. And then he's at the very beginning, there's a character Vanzetti's mistaken for. He's mistaken for each other. So I made an identical mask with a mustache, but instead of the mustache being a big downturned mustache, it's a big upturned mustache. That's just an example of kind of how we looked at the play and said, how do we add to the designs of these traditional masks in a way that helps tell the story?
Why do you feel that this story is very relevant right now? I know we were briefly just speaking on that, but telling the story now, what strength do you think it holds?
Oh, it's so timely. There's, for each line, about rounding up immigrants, putting them on trial, and the bias that is occurring in our courtrooms right now. It's just so impactful and so timely that when you hear things, it's so fresh and alive because you're seeing it. You saw it in Minneapolis and elsewhere. I'm an immigrant, obviously. Given the nature of how I look, I'm definitely not going to be treated the same way. But it's very impactful to me because I worry about going back to Canada and trying to get back in. I currently hold a green card right now, which needs to be renewed in 2 years. So this has a personal impact. And so if you have any blemish on your record of any kind, you can be scrutinized. And when you come across one of the bridges from Ontario to the United States, I always get a little flutter, and I think I got this ticket for talking on the cell phone while driving, which seems so banal at this point. But and you didn't have there was no capability of just pleading not guilty like most traffic violations. This was in New Jersey. We all had to go in and have this mass trial where we're all stopped on the same day, and we had to stand up, and if you said not guilty, then your day got longer, and so they're fully aware that you're going to lose a day's work here. So we all just stood up and pled guilty. I thought this was a minor thing. And then the judge said, for those that are holding green cards or your status is in process, just know that this appears on your record. And this was like 8 years ago. And I was like, oh my God. So I can't even imagine how other immigrants feel if I'm sitting here full of all the privileges that I have. People are just shocked when they hear that I'm not American. I have the accent. I've been living here longer than you've been alive. It's just so palpable. And it's topic du jour, man. So I can't imagine anything more timely than this at this moment.
And I think some of the lines that I use in the play were from like newspapers and articles from 1920, 1919, 1910s, talking about immigrants. At that time, they were mainly talking about Italian immigrants and Eastern European immigrants. It sounds exactly, I think audience members are going to think I took it out of newspapers today.
Yes.
And because it's exactly the same. There's no difference.
Yeah. So what responsibility do you feel when portraying real people with such similar, unfortunate repetition of history?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because they're Sacco and Vanzetti are kind of, they're kind of mythic characters. And, we think of them as Sacco and Vanzetti, and really they only knew each other briefly before being arrested. And the majority of their trial, they were kept in separate prisons. It wasn't really because Vanzetti was convicted of a different crime which they think is a setup so that he would already be a convicted criminal for the one that him and Sacco were convicted on trial for. So they tried him first, got him a conviction, same judge, same DA. It was the same thing. So he was already a convicted criminal in a different prison. And they didn't really spend time together until they were moved to the death house. People think of them as like, one thing, but they were really very, very separate. So, and we don't really know a whole lot about them. We have their letters, but those letters were edited by two Bostonian women who were part of the Sacco Vanzetti defense team. So they corrected some of their English, edited some of the stuff to kind of fit their agenda, and then published those letters as the letters of Sacco and Vanzetti, which anybody could go get now. And I used some of those letters as their monologues. I edited them and put them together. I think what I wanted to show was that, we kind of think of people as immigrants, like they get this blanket statement and we don't really think about the individual. And what I'm hoping to do with this is that we get to see, in this chaos of trials and being held under arrest and appeals and all this stuff, that there are, people, two men that love their families, that they love life, they love nature, and they talk about wanting freedom for everybody. They want everybody to love it. And I think we forget that. We forget that there are these are people. We could talk about immigrants, but they're people. They're human beings that want what every other human being wants, which is love and nature and beautiful things and a roof over their head and food in their bellies. And they're not just a title or a monolith, but it is a comedy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Wow.
So it's kind of weird, it is weird. We talk about this stuff and, but
It is a good delivery system for the message.
Yeah.
It really is.
I mean, great comedy comes through truth.
Plus, it'll let you think about these things after you go home, I think. It'll let you have an enjoyable evening with the message just kind of residing in the back of your mind.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what I would like to do now is I would like us to go around in a circle. I would like us to go around in this square, and I would love for each of you to stare down the camera and manifest the future of this production as it contributes to contemporary theater, or towards any future studies about the case of Sacco and Vanzetti.
Well, I'm excited about the fact that the anniversary is coming up, and I hope there's a possibility for this to go to Boston. I'm excited about the fact that commedia is being brought back. I think, not that it has gone by any means, but in Philadelphia, there tends to be a draw towards realism, and I love the fact that John has found a way to tie some of this realism with commedia, and I think that holds a big future for this style of work. Plus, we are applying to be involved in a workshop in France, and I'm crossing my fingers that comes through because I want to go there. And John and Renato, Sacco and Vanzetti, have plans for doing some type of production, a limited type of production in Italy. So I just wanted to travel the world with John and this piece.
Yeah, that sounds good. I'll do that too. I just want to do what Paul wants to do.
I think for me, yes to everything that Paul said. But for me, one of the reasons why I wrote this piece was because I think a lot of Italian Americans have forgotten our past. And I grew up in a house. My father's from Sicily. My maternal grandfather was from the same town that my father's from. So I grew up with a really strong sense of Italian pride without making me feel like Italians were better than anybody else. And I grew up with my grandfather telling me stories of when he first got here and the discrimination that he experienced because he was Italian. I got to witness firsthand some of the discrimination my father saw. My father witnessed, my father had to live through as an Italian immigrant. And I think, nowadays there's Italians with people with Italian last names that are trying to close the door. So I really hope that Italian Americans will come and see this and remember our past and hopefully help the next wave of immigrants not go through what our grandparents and great grandparents went through. That's one of the main reasons why I was drawn to Sacco Vanzetti and why I wrote this piece.
I want all of this for this piece. And so, as I say, not just as a hype woman, but also a bit of a witchy woman, it is written. It is absolutely written. The traveling, the sold out run, the impact it's going to create for audiences, all of it. Yes. Yes. Just yes. My last question to kind of wrap things up is who, what, when, where, why? Where is this happening? How can people get their tickets? Where can we keep up with all of the shenanigans happening at Curio?
Curio is on the corner of 48th and Baltimore Avenue in West Philadelphia. There's a big banner outside that says Sacco and Vanzetti with all the information on there. And that information is curiotheatre.org. And you can go right to the website. It's right on the homepage. Click, buy a ticket. It's very quick. So please come.
Fantastic. All of that information is going to be on screen and in the description box below. Fellas, I'm so glad to have met with you today. I'm very excited to see the show, and I hope to see all of you out there in Living Land there as well. Thank you so much for joining me for another Call Time at Theater Pod Marquee Moment. My name is Marissa Helene Mast. You are the audience. Bye-bye now.
This podcast was made possible through the support of viewers like you. Thank you.